Welcome back to another episode of the Resellers Mindset Podcast. My name is Mike, also known as the Used Book Guy on YouTube, along with my friend and fellow full-time reseller, Johnny B. We help people start and grow their reselling businesses from the ground up. We also have a weekly Zoom call and private Discord for all YouTube members. Head on over to youtube.com/usedbookguy to join the channel and gain access to the full-length podcast, Zoom call, and private Discord today. Let's get into this week's episode. What is up, everybody? Welcome in another episode, Resellers Mindset Podcast. Mike here, along with Johnny, as always, in your ears, or you're watching us every single Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. All the podcast episodes go live on all platforms. Today is going to be a relevant but important topic. As a reseller, the opportunity to buy items in bulk. For us media sellers, we know this kind of can level up your game, but it also can, basically run you out of business. It goes both ways. And whether you're selling media or clothing or shoes, or there's always opportunities to get large amounts of inventory. So we're going to discuss today basically the ins and outs, the benefits, the downfalls, the things people talk about, the things people really don't talk about when it comes to getting inventory in bulk. Johnny actually has a bulk pickup later today. So this is why we're going to cover this. So Johnny's going to take it away and tell his little story here of his bulk deal, how he got it, what is he actually getting, is he paying, is it free pickup, how much work goes into it. Anyways, take us away, Johnny.
Well, let's go. So it's a library bulk pickup, and these are their leftovers. I didn't bother going to it in advance because I'm going to get what was missed anyway. And for those that don't know, I do have a retail shop that the junk will go to. So I just shove what I don't want out there, and doesn't feed my Amazon or my eBay metrics. That's what goes there. How this came to be is when I first was moving into my warehouse here, I had met this lady, and I'd forgotten until she walked into time number 2, which I'll get to in a minute. She was like, "You buy books?" I like, "Yes, but I'm moving in." It was like the middle of my move, and I was moving from storage units to here. I was like, "I can't deal with what you want to sell me right now. I'm sorry, but here's my number." She never bothered to call me. About a year later, she walks into my shop once I've opened the brick and mortar portion. And she's like, "You ready to buy books now?" And I'm like, "No, because I'm not buying. As you can see, I have so much." And she's just like, "Well, I tried dealing with other programs. You tried dealing with Buy Back Your Book, I think. And they wanted like a $1,500 a month book commitment from the library, and they couldn't do that. They're a smaller library. It's like, well, I guess we could do free. I'm like, deal, done. And that's been about 2 months, and today's the day of the pickup. They sent me some photos yesterday evening, so I had no idea how much or how little I was going to go out for. They're about an hour away, but based off the photos, it's going to be a 2-vehicle thing. So I have an employee, so scheduling, we had to be a little bit flexible. So I gave her a day off, which isn't typical during the week. So she could come in today after she gets out of church, and we're going to go to the library because that's when the library sale is done, and they don't want to do the cleanup. That's our job. We clean it up and take it away.
You say it's free, right? So it's free pickup, but I'm just curious, that librarian shows back up in your store next week and says, "Hey, can I take some books for free?" You gonna let her take them for free?
She's been in here a couple of times and she's bought in books, but if she wants some free books, sure. I also have every time you come into my store, you get a free book policy because I have so much. It doesn't matter.
Some discussions around before you commit to picking up bulk items, right? So a library sale is a library sale, but there's other situations, right? I always talk about people go to flea markets, they have connections where they can buy items in bulk. What kind of vetting do you think people should do if there's an opportunity in front of them that's, "Hey, I have X amount of pounds of shoes or clothing, do you want to buy them at X price?" What kind of vetting should a reseller do to make sure you're not getting all junk?
On a purchase and not a free scenario, you need to, can you send me photos if the stuff isn't available to look through? What are you trying to buy before you shake hands on an agreement? It'd be the best deal in town, but if it's all torn to shreds, water damage, bugs, pages torn, it's not worth it. I don't care if it's 1 cent an item. It's not worth it at that point. As far as the vetting, I would always ask, why are you wanting to get rid of it? Unless it is indeed a library. What's the deal? There is a reason they're wanting to get rid of it, and it could be a no-go reason.
It's funny you say that because I see it all the time around me. People are trying to sell thousands of DVDs. Okay. How many people do any of us listening or watching this know somebody that has thousands of DVDs? The answer is zero. Nobody has that much inventory. So if you don't take a second to say, hey, why do you have 5,000 DVDs or CDs? All of a sudden you agree to something and you get it, and there's 30 copies of Harry Potter. And it's all basically another reseller's duds. I'm public service announcement. Resellers want to sell their stuff. They don't care if it's to another reseller. They're not going to be like, "Oh yeah, Johnny, come get this stuff and pay me for it." They're not going to be like, "Yeah, I scanned this for Amazon and eBay." They're not going to tell you that because unfortunately, yes, there's great reselling communities out there. Most resellers that are on social media and YouTube are amazing people, but that's not the real world. It's just not the case.
Right. And I'm not guilty of this, but I put ads on Facebook. Here's a box of kids' books. I have so many kids' books to get rid of. But if a reseller asks me, hey, are these duds? I'm like, absolutely. Here's my number. If you're looking for less, it's maybe there, but there's no promises, or maybe something bounced back in the market. I had a woman walk in here. She asked me, are you a reseller? I'm like, yes. And then we talked about her numbers. Like, well, I'm just gonna buy books for me. So she said. So I come in the back here and I'm hearing the little boop, boop, boop. Like, why would you lie about that? Some resellers are dirty, filthy liars. Like, I'm like, and I mentioned, I don't think there's much on that shelf, ma'am. You might want to try this shelf if you're going to scan. Like, no, I'm just shopping for me. I'm like, I can hear you scan. It's not even muted. But I just let her go at it. Okay.
It is I think it is crucial though to understand, right? And personally, I'm not a great investigator, right? So if somebody reaches out to me, uh I get all their information, right? Usually get their phone number, their name, and I'll have Deb. She's good with computers and technology. She'll look this person up on Facebook, make sure they're not, a serial killer, anything like that. There are steps to basically prepare yourself in the sense of dealing with the inventory and making sure you're checking off all the boxes that this bulk buy is actually going to make you money, and vetting a person 100% is the case. If I have somebody around me that sells gaylords of media on Facebook, right? So this person reaches out to me and like, hey, I got X amount of DVDs and CDs, and look up the name on Facebook. Deb's like, this person's literally a reseller. They like sell media on Amazon and eBay. So like we email them back like, hey, we're not looking to buy other resellers duds, like straight up, just straight to the facts, like just shoot straight. And the guy's like, oh, okay, I understand. Yeah, I'm a reseller, right? So that wasn't the initial conversation, right? It's not like the first message that person sent me was like, hey, I'm a reseller. These are all items that aren't worth it to me. It's like if you don't take that extra step to kind of discover what you're getting yourself into, all of a sudden you have thousands of pounds of stuff that's worth nothing that you got to deal with.
Now, another thing you should vet them for, because you can do a whole lot of talking over the course of a few days or a week. Get the number out of the way first. If they're doing the song and dance about the number per item, those are usually professional sellers, by the way. They're really good at it. They work like at a car sale company or something, because they don't want to discuss numbers until the very end. They want you there. They want you to overcommit before they highball you. That's what's going to happen if you don't get the number talked about at the beginning of the conversation and wait all the end. They're going to get their way more than likely, unless you know better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think you have to have okay, this is what it's going to be. Everything is set in stone before I'm even close to going to get the stuff, right? We're not playing this game I get here. Oh, all of a sudden it's X amount. No, we're not playing that. Everything is set in stone. Whether you're paying for it or you're picking it up for free, all your ducks need to be in a row, right? So the library today, Johnny, did they say things are going to be boxed up for you? what supplies are you preparing if somebody's like, hey, I got a whole bunch of stuff for you to come get?
I tell them that's great that you boxed it up for me if they pre-boxed it, but I'm going to leave your boxes there and use my totes because I don't want to have to cut boxes as part of my process. I got enough boxes. I hate boxes. Boxes are terrible, terrible, terrible. So if they pre-box it, I say whatever. I'm just gonna unpack it and leave your boxes there. If they ask me if I'm gonna box it up or help them, I'm like, no, I'm gonna me and or my employee are gonna come in there. I need you to get out of our way and we're gonna do all the work. You just smile and have a good old time. You don't have to do a thing. Because me and her have a certain process. If they try to help me, they're gonna interfere and get in my way, which will A, frustrate me, B, cost me time.
Now, like with media, it's different, right? There's really like no brands. I mean, yeah, there are certain things that kind of stick out that you would know to buy, right? But if we could kind of get into other reselling, like we are talking about clothes and shoes, a lot of it is brand heavy, right? A lot of it's like, well, if you're selling 1,000 pounds of clothes, what are the brands in there? How heavy is it with, Nike, Adidas, same with the sneakers, right? What are you getting? Are you getting the Walmart brand stuff? Are you getting the good stuff? And I think with that, it's even more essential that you get photos, you understand exactly what you're getting because I can say, oh yeah, there's some Nike in here, this 1,000 pair of shoes I'm trying to sell, and there's maybe 5 pairs of Nikes in the whole thing, right? Did I lie? I said there was pairs of Nikes in there, Johnny. I mean, I didn't say there was only five out of the 1,000, but I did say there was some Nike in there.
Now, here's the other thing that I haven't mentioned about my library sale. They have a back room they're going to invite me into. Apparently, they did Amazon once a time, and their account's now deactivated. I didn't really question this. I told them I'd look at it, but if I'm dealing with an already previous store, Amazon, this is what they're going to want to charge me money for. They had mentioned this. I said, I'll look at it and we'll talk about it after I look at it, the number, because they wanted me to commit a per piece item on pre-listed Amazon. I have no idea what they've done. I have no idea if they know what they're doing. It could be worth it, could not. That's a game I'll play when I'm actually there to look at it and pull some stuff up. They could be all you score zeros for all I know. But
I
I'm gonna do the free stuff and maybe their Amazon ring.
I,
Maybe.
I'm never signing up to pay what somebody else decided they think something is worth, right? But that's
Yeah.
why we're having this talk here because these situations do arise, right? Like I have all these antique books and I looked them up on eBay and they're worth X amount of dollars. Well, I mean, listen, if you want to go list them on eBay and sell them yourself, the go for it, right? There's no problems doing that, but I'm not going to pay that price. And I think the idea of buying in bulk, even if it's not media, is you're providing a service of getting rid of the items, even if it's free. And if you're giving them money, that's even better. Not only are you providing the service, you're actually paying them to remove the stuff they can't get rid of, or they don't want to list, right? Maybe it's good stuff. Maybe some of us have great bulk connections in any aspect of it, right? But you just have to realize you are providing the service. You are the one in control. I think we kind of get swept away with, well,
It's
they have the stuff, so they're in control. No, it's actually the complete opposite. You are in control. You're the one that's paying, or you're removing all the stuff they don't want to remove.
no, absolutely. And my other library, I do pay them. It's by the pound there with them. It's like 10 cents a pound, which I don't mind. It give me good stuff. However, they're calling me in before the library sale even starts. So that was the price I have to pay and continue to pay. They give me cookies. They offer me furniture. They asked for help and be involved. I'm like, no, get out of my way. You just make me cookies. That's all you need to do. But they're if you have to pay for a bulk pickup, that's okay. It doesn't have to be all free. But as Mike was saying here, you're in control of the number. I don't care how fancy their storage and well organized their books are, they aren't in control. It's your time, and time is valuable. Time has a worth. So, and don't be afraid to say no. If you don't like what you're hearing, or there's just a million red flags, it's a-okay to say, I'm sorry, this ain't gonna work, but thank you for your time. Have a good day, sir or madam.
100%. Everything you just said is, I mean, it doesn't get any more truer than that. I actually I was supposed to have a bulk pickup Friday that I canceled on because the guy reached out to me last year. Thankfully, Deb has a great memory, and she said, "Hey, this guy reached out to you before. He's an antique book dealer." And all of a sudden, he wanted me to buy his books last year at X amount of dollars for each one. Now, all of a sudden, he's got stuff that, he wants to get rid of for free. Doesn't add up, right? So if you have this feeling or this intuition, I always tell everybody, trust your gut with stuff like this. If something feels off, if you think this person, might be a reseller, and if there's any resale lingo, like say you're just on marketplace and you're shopping trying to find stuff in bulk, if there's any resale lingo in the post, run away. If I see any great for reselling, like how many bulk things do you see? Like, oh, around me now, I got these people trying to sell like liquidated pallets of like Kohl's returns and Target returns, and it's always like great for reselling, retail value of like $50 million, and I'm only going to charge you $500, right? Those are the situations you want to run from. The ones that are easy to get are usually bad. That's how I kind of look at it. The easier it is to kind of just be like, take my money, the worse the inventory is going to be.
Now here's a fun one, especially when you're dealing with not pros but people who don't know any better. They're gonna want you to appraise their books, and like I don't got time for that. And if you want to know what's, I will show you how to do it once, and you're on your own after that. But I'm not here going to price comp the stuff, and then you tell me, oh, I'm just not going to sell to you. No, I'm not doing that. No.
That's funny because my library sells like the older ladies are usually like curious what I'm doing, right? Because I'm in there before the sales open to public, so it's just all the people that help set it up or shopping. So they're always like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And like I show them, "Oh yeah, hey, this is worth this, this is worth this." Um, but I do think, right, like there's a fine line. I understand, like I work with that library, so they don't care, right? They're just curious what I'm doing. But there are situations, right? You walk into somebody's garage and all of a sudden they want you to, well, is this one worth a lot of money? Is this one worth a lot of money? And it's like, if you say they're not, it's like they're offended anyway. And then if you say they are, they're like, well, you ain't getting this one, chief. It's like, it's a lose-lose situation if you're looking up items for the person you're picking up from.
And even when you do show, I've showed them the number when they're asking for X, and you're like, no, it's worth Y, but I need to make a profit. So that number needs to not even be this number. It needs to be my number over here for me to make any money. And they're like, no. I'm like, well, we can't do business, sir or madam. That's just how it is.
Yeah, and that comes to like iron everything out before you show up, right? You want to have everything, every detail ready to go. Do I need to bring boxes, right? There's been situations where, hey, we don't have boxes. Do you need me to bring boxes around? How many items do you have? Do you have pictures so I can come prepared? That's how you word it, right? Can I get some photos? Are these going to be boxed up? You get everything out of the way. You get all the photos. You see exactly what you're walking into, because somebody could say, and it's happened to me. I only got like 2 boxes of books. You can come get them. And then I show up and there's 15 boxes, right? I'm like, wait a minute, you said 2 boxes. Sure, I can handle it because I can fill the car up, but that's why you have to have a clear conversation. And most of these people, if they're not resellers, they're going to be straight up with you. Like, oh yeah, here's a picture of the bookcase. I don't have boxes. If you bring some, that could be great. But if you don't have that conversation and they're just like, hey, I got probably 2 boxes of books for you to come get, and you just say yes, and then you show up the day of, like, you don't know what you're walking into.
Right. And in the case of my library sale, and this is true of all library sales, they're not going to know how much is going to be left over until the library sale's done. So I specifically requested for last evening for them. Well, I requested for them to send me photos the evening of when it's done. So I know if I'm bringing one vehicle or 2 vehicles, or if this is going to be a 1, 2, or 3 or 4 trip, because you don't know based off the quantity, and they don't know either, which is fair. And they also may not know because they're gonna some of them will put certain things back in their inventory for their next sale. So they're not gonna have a true count, or I never asked for a count, by the way. I just asked for photos to see what it is and eyeball it until it's done. And that's fair. And we're dealing with an individual. They got all the times in the world, and then they're not having onesie twosies come out. They can count it, or they can send you a photo or the bookcase. You don't need to buy shelf thing just to see what you're getting yourself into, honestly. And here's the other fun thing: the weather. If you're doing in a truck, are you going to schedule it on a rainy day? Maybe you should check the weather. If you have an enclosed vehicle, not such a big deal, but you got that transportation from their facility to your car. Is the stuff going to get drenched? How can you protect it if you are going to work in a rainy day? Have a tarp handy or something?
I do think the biggest thing that we haven't talked about that we're going to get into right now is processing the bulk pickup. You just took the time to score, right? Because we all know usually when you buy in bulk, you get it for cheaper. You're going to make more money. You're just willing to do the work. Now, no matter what category you are in, if you are not prepared mentally, physically, and processingly is not even a word. I just made it up. A bulk pickup can close your business, your reselling business. I'll stand by that no matter what category you sell in. If you are not prepared for it, it will crush you.
Now, here's the thing. I messed up. You know what I forgot to ask these library people? And she just so happened to mention it last night in her little correspondence to me. Oh, by the way, there's stairs. I can't use my card I normally use unless I have two cards, which we're not going to do. We're just going to carry it on the stairs. I didn't account for that. And that was a mistake on my end. I didn't add because we're in Texas. There's very little things with stairs here, honestly. It didn't even dawn on me to ask for stairs. But so I'm going to deal with stairs today. But back to your point. Go ahead, Mike.
You pick up the library sale stuff, right? I think this is important and everybody has to hear this. You're scanning through it for Amazon and eBay. If there is a profit of $1, $2, $3, $4, are you wasting time putting that in the pile to list because you got it for free?
Yeah. I mean, unless you're assembling a lot of these lower end items. You got to decide how much your time is worth. And if you're trying to chase quarters and I don't know, Washington and Mr. Lincoln there, I mean, it's not worth your time. You need to be chasing at least a $10 bill, $20 preferably, honestly.
Okay, so people are probably like, well, Johnny's got a storefront, so he can just put the crap out there. Well, I don't have a storefront, and I'm here to tell you that even how easy it is to list on Amazon, if I'm going to make $4, if I scan it today and it says $4, I'm not sending it in. I'm here to tell you that. I hate to burst everybody's bubbles. All you people out there selling the $5, $10 junk, live your life. That's all I could say. You want to work for, $3 an hour, so be it. As a reseller, you are a business owner. What is your hourly wage inside of your reselling business? Just because you got it for free doesn't mean you should be listing everything. I mean, it's crazy to me that people have the mindset, well, I got it for nothing and it's going to make me $2, so I might as well list it. Okay, let's create an eBay listing. If you're the fastest man alive like tech and you can get an eBay listing done in 30 seconds, right? That takes, years and years of experience. Ain't nobody out here listening to this got that kind of mojo behind their listing prowess. So all of a sudden, your little free items pile up and you get them listed. Maybe if we just factor in, how long it takes you to list, maybe you're listing, $30 in profit an hour. Sounds great, right? $30 in profit. All right. The items take a while to sell. Your packing materials, you're definitely not factoring that in. The time to pack the items, the time to take them to the post office, the customer service. You're $30 an hour. You're looking at $8 an hour. I mean, that's just the reality of selling this. So when you get large quantities, don't don't change your business because all of a sudden you have items in bulk. I think that's kind of the takeaway, right? It's
All right, and go ahead.
well with Amazon, right? I have a bulk trigger set, right? So the profit's a little bit lower. So if I'm buying CDs at the thrift with an $8 profit, if I'm buying in bulk for 10 cents a piece, I can lower that down to 6. I think the 25% less idea is good for me. And I think that's kind of maybe a good rule of thumb to follow. But it's harder if you're not selling on Amazon because the software takes care of that. If it's eBay, right? I'm used to listing $20 only items. I'm only going to list books I'm going to list for at least $20. So I would have to make a mental note. All right, well, if it's worth $15, but then again, it's really not worth my time on eBay because I'm not the fast tech lister, right? It takes me a while to list things. So if anything, for eBay, it should go up 25%. because it takes me longer, or it should be the same because it takes me longer to list things. I don't know, man. I think people just because they get stuff for free, like right across the street from me, they had stuff free on the sidewalk for like the past 2 weeks. And I think to myself, like, wow, free inventory. Like somebody would kill to have free inventory. And I just think about the person, the reseller that goes and grabs everything. And all of a sudden they're like, well, I'm going to list all this stuff. I got a Christmas wreath. I got a blanket. I got baby shoes. And it's like, forget about it.
Right. And one of the things, since we mentioned his name, Tech always tells our little refinement group, let somebody else deal with the junk. You don't want to be the junk seller. Give that to somebody else, burn it, get rid of it, open a storefront like Johnny B. Do something with it. Don't make it part of your online business because, it's, like you said, it's the hourly wage. How much is your time worth? So all that happens when the stuff that's not worth it just goes on a shelf. I'm done. Or it goes on that shelf, and I'm done. Now it gets monetized, sure, but if you don't have a place like I do, well, you got Facebook Marketplace, but let's say you don't have the space for all these Facebook Marketplace items. Fine, then it's time to either donate it or set it on fire, my friend.
Every category, you can leverage the items that aren't worth it to grow relationships. All right. So let's just think about it. Forget books and media. Uh, I'm a clothing seller. I get all these clothes, right? I'm only keeping the cream of the crop. I'm not dealing with the junk. Well, what can you do with said junk clothing? Maybe you have a local used clothing store, maybe a little local thrift store. You go in, hey, I got a bunch to donate. You explain what you're doing. You kind of all of a sudden you're building relationships from the stuff that isn't worth anything. And hey, you got sneakers. Maybe you donate the sneakers to like a local mission or something. Give out some business cards. Explain what you do. All of a sudden, hey, they're always in here donating 500 pairs of sneakers every 3 months, right? And then all of a sudden, the person running the mission's like, well, one of my friends has got a whole bunch of stuff they're looking to get rid of. I know you're in here always helping us out. Are you interested in it? And then boom, all of a sudden, all these doors are opening for all the junk that's not worth it to you.
Right. Like one of my biggest things last year, sadly they closed down, was a senior center. What do they call it? It's not a clubhouse, but it was like an activity thing in town they had. It shut down, unfortunately. But they were all donating to that place's library, but they were getting so much they had to rotate stuff out. But I was the guy that took the stuff they rotated out. And these this is the funny part. They used little skinny boxes because these are old men and women, right? They were smart because they're old and wise. They made boxes they could carry. So I had to do so many trips with these little tiny boxes because they were like this big. There's like 5 books in each box. But that's how they did it because that's how they could handle it before I got there. But I didn't mind because A, it was free. B, I was doing a service. And all those little old ladies and men, they would call me when they wanted to clear stuff out of their houses too. Beyond the little senior center clubhouse thing they had that has now closed, sadly. But now that it has closed, they're calling me a lot more because they have no place else to put it. So it all worked out. And it's again, it goes to that relationship building Mike's talking about.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody. And there's always somebody else out there that could use it or appreciate the stuff that isn't really worth it to you, right? I mean, junk to me might not be junk to Johnny, right? I mean, yeah, I
Right.
know that's a fact because I got a box of junk sitting in my storage unit that's going to be headed your way next week, probably. So, like,
Right. And because of our little podcast here, me and Max have actually worked out some stuff as well because he doesn't like everything he gets that I like to deal with. So some of that's coming my way. See, it's a trickle down effect, right? Or a
yeah,
trickle up, depending how you're looking at it. If everybody's helping each other out in their businesses, everybody wins, honestly.
I think another thing that I want to touch on here before we switch over to the members part of this is making and touching the item once, making a decision once, right? So I get 1,000 t-shirts, vintage t-shirts, right? I'm holding this t-shirt up once, I'm checking the tag once, and I'm making that decision right there, Johnny. Is this for me? Is it going to eBay? Is it going to Amazon? Is it going to donations? Is it going to my pile to sell to somebody else? I think touching items multiple times, and I know for a fact because we used to do this, right? When we used Scout IQ, and you would have to scan for FBA and then switch your trigger set and scan everything for FBM. Touching things once is the only way you are going to survive if you're dealing in bulk.
Right. Even me, when it scans for Amazon and pops to go in, I don't go check it for eBay in addition to see if I can get slightly more money from eBay. Hell no. It's going to Amazon if it can go to Amazon. Anything left over, then I'll look at that stuff for eBay. Unfortunately, a second pass, but it's part of my process. And the stuff that can't be looked up, like the hard lookups, am I going to hard look it up on Amazon and try to deal with the crappy photos? Sorry, Amazon, you got crappy photos. Or am I just going to try to look up on eBay? You got to decide again, how much is your time worth? Like you could milk every nickel out, but does this pile of nickels equal this pile of dollars for your time? Question mark. You got to answer these for yourselves.
Yeah, but even the process you said, like, how you look at things twice, it's not you grab that specific book, right? You grab, grab an example here, right? You got your little, I'm a video game seller, right? I
Yeah.
got this video game, I scan it for Amazon, it's not worth it. I don't stop right then and there to look this item up on eBay. You put this aside because we always talk about it. You have to be focused on the task in hand. You can't be switching, because I'm guilty of this. I've done it plenty of times where I hit the button where it pulls up my tabs for Amazon and eBay, and all of a sudden, like, it's this thing that took 10 seconds to put in the pile now turns into a 3-minute debacle of me switching between eBay and Amazon to see which one's worth more, and then your whole day's gone and you got through 30 of the 1,000 items you have to get through.
All right, it's completely separate run. Completely separate run. And also like the pre-process of like barcode, ISBN pile, things I'll have to open to check to see if it has an ISBN, or hey, this is way too old. I could just tell by eyeballing it. It don't even have a thing for me to look up in there.
All right, we're gonna wrap up the normal part here. I do have one last piece of advice for everybody before we switch over to the members, is that if you are not experienced in handling bulk, no matter what category you sell in as a reseller, reach out to anybody and everybody. I will say this. Most of these big time resellers, if you just send them a message and explain your situation, they can lead you in the right path to starting correctly and not overwhelming yourself with a bulk purchase, right? Most of these huge resellers, they're open books, right? They're on social media for a reason. They want to help people grow. They want to help you understand your business, and they want you to build your business the correct way. I know you might think your way is the best, but if you've never done this, I always say, reach out to somebody and just see what they say. So as always, we appreciate you listening if you're watching over on YouTube, and we'll talk to you all in next week's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Resellers Mindset Podcast. My name is Mike, also known as the Used Book Guy on YouTube, along with my friend and fellow full-time reseller, Johnny B. We help people start and grow their reselling businesses from the ground up. We also have a weekly Zoom call and private Discord for all YouTube members. Head on over to youtube.com/usedbookguy to join the channel and gain access to the full-length podcast, Zoom call, and private Discord today. Let's get into this week's episode.